Ready, set, hut, hut.
As the hills of West Virginia resound with the sound of Golden Blue football.
Almost heaven, West Virginia.
Now let's bring on the Mountaineers. Goes around about the 15 to 10 to 5. A touchdown, West Virginia. He did it.
He did it. Patrick White. Touchdown, Tay Von Austin.
The Don Nehlen's Mountaineers enjoy walking in where angels fear to tread.
I think you think that these guys are going to fall over dead for you. Well, I got news for you. They're going to punch you right in the mouth. It's Mountaineer pride!
Nothing cheap, nothing dirty, but West Virginia football. West Virginia football.
Leave no doubt tonight. They shouldn't have played the old Golden Blue. Not this night.
They've done it. They've done it. A perfect season. And the Mountaineers, for the first time in history, undefeated and untied.
Don Nehlen and his Mountaineers, for the second time, have finished a regular season with an unblemished mark.
Ain't no stopping the Golden Blue.
It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome into another live stream here on the Country Roads webcast. April 3rd edition may actually be the first of another one that's coming on April 3rd, so maybe we'll do April 3rd part 2 later today. This one, basketball-centric. I think later today we'll be talking football. Going to kind of separate those today, as I believe Rich Rod will have a press conference here in a bit. I'll come back and share some thoughts on that later today, but on this stream, of course, we got to talk about the introductory press conference for Ross Hodge. That'll be kind of be the crux of this show. I've got a ton of notes that I took while watching his press conference this morning, and then we have some basketball portal news to talk about in the latter half of the show as well. A nice target, a really talented transfer portal player. West Virginia is on his final list of schools. We'll talk about him. And then another former Mountaineer has announced his destination as well that is transferring out. So we'll do those transfer portal updates towards the tail end, but we'll talk Ross Hodge here at the beginning. Appreciate you guys that are watching live, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. If you're on Facebook or Twitch, do encourage you to come over to the Country Roads webcast YouTube and subscribe so you can get access to the pre-recorded videos and podcast episodes in addition to the live streams, and there's a ton of those to check out just over the past 24 hours or so. Yesterday, we put out a video highlighting the jersey numbers for the Spring Showcase, so you'll know who to watch for if you're heading up to the Spring Showcase. We put out a new episode of the CRW podcast, episode 219. We put out this morning a recruiting update on the channel as well. West Virginia landed a really nice running back in the 2026 football class, so right there's already 3 pre-recorded videos you can check out if you come over to the YouTube side of things. And if you are one that tunes in here on YouTube, you can help us out by hitting the thumbs up button, whether you're watching live or after the fact on a playback. Helps this hit the YouTube algorithm, find more Mountaineer fans like yourself. Other than that, if you guys are in here live, you got any questions, comments, throw them in the chat there. I'll try and touch up on those throughout the stream. But let's get into it. Let's talk about Ross Hodge's press conference. And I think one thing is for sure, in my opinion, is Ross Hodge is a guy that I've told you all, throughout the process. The more and more I read about him, the more and more I learned about him, I was sold from that point. But I think if you're someone that wasn't sold yet, had your doubts, this press conference may have went a long way to win you over. He said some really great things. I want to highlight some of those here. May take a while. Got about a page and a half of notes here, but a lot of good things that he touched on that I think definitely deserve mentioning here as we discuss some takeaways from that press conference. So let's get into it. This morning he opened up saying, he called the opportunity an incredible honor and a blessing and something that he does not take lightly, being the head coach at WVU. He, of course, mentioned he's already impressed with the people of West Virginia. You guys may have seen, made the rounds yesterday, obviously got the tour of the facilities, but even went to the baseball game last night, which shout out to the WVU baseball team, handling Pitt, getting the run rule there, 11-1 win, love dominating the Panthers in any sport. And Coach Hodge was there taking it in. There was a video going around of him talking to a ton of fans, so obviously had some great experiences with the people of West Virginia already. One thing that I liked as well is he talked extensively about his family, pretty much multiple members, his immediate family, his wife and his kids, but had some really good things to say about his parental figures as well, which I'll talk about here momentarily. But I thought it was funny, in the early part of his press conference there, he definitely delivered some laughs, a little bit of levity to go with some of the more serious notes he would hit throughout the press conference. But one of those moments of levity that I thought was funny was when he was talking about his daughter Googling and, keeping showing them the West Virginia version of Sweet Caroline, which we all know how that goes, and they all got a kick out of that. And of course, he said they have 9/13 circled on their calendar for the Backyard Brawl to hear that with 60,000 fans singing that version of Sweet Caroline. But he followed that up saying, he's not a big cursor, and he said actually he has a rule in his practices that if he curses or if someone else curses, it's 5 push-ups. And he said his daughter kept playing that WVU version of Sweet Caroline so much that it may have caused his household to do about 500 push-ups ever since the time, with as many times as they watched that, which I thought was pretty funny. But then, of course, on a more serious note, he talked about his mother, how hard of a worker she is and how tough that she is. Mentioned, the way that she worked. I think he said 21 days straight, sometimes without a day off. And he got a little choked up talking about her, and almost got me choked up watching the press conference. You could tell she certainly means a lot to him. And like I said, he said that she's the toughest person that he knows. And that if you watch the Mountaineers play and you think, man, that is a tough team, he said, you can thank my mom for that. And then talked a little bit about his father, who has passed away. And he said, my father passed, he's in heaven, so what better way to be closer to him than to come to almost heaven here in West Virginia, which I thought that was a nice touch as well. Talked a bit about the West Virginia brand and how big and impactful it is, something that he's known, all along. And the one way that he referenced it was, maybe the best known logo in all of sports, the NBA logo, of course, none other than the great Jerry West. And he talked a little bit about Jerry West there. He mentioned how much he admires Joe Mazzulla, the way that he kind of does things, not being shy about his faith. And that's something that Ross Hodge and Coach Mazzulla have in common, is they really profess their faith, and they use it a lot in their coaching tactics and in their mentality. And he said he can't wait to, speak to Coach Mazzulla and learn from him even more so, because he really has a ton of respect for him. And then he spoke a little bit about the history of WVU basketball, and I thought that it was definitely noteworthy that he talked about Coach Catlett, Gail Catlett. He talked about John Beeline, and one of the things that he talked about with Coach Beeline was how innovative Coach Beeline was with kind of his offensive style, doing something that a lot of people do nowadays. He was doing it, 20 years ago here at WVU, kind of inverting the offense, having bigs that played outside, posting up guards, shooting a lot of three-pointers, which is really what we see in today's day and age. And then he talked about Coach Huggins, but I thought it was noteworthy that he mentioned Coach Catlett, he mentioned Coach Beeline, he mentioned Coach Huggins. Guess who he didn't mention? I think we all know, the name that should not be spoke of, right, was not mentioned by Coach Hodge, and rightfully so, right, after the way that things went down. But he also referenced, when talking about Bob Huggins, that one moment that he always remembers and that really, hit him in the feels, I guess, so to speak, and something that's kind of stuck with him is a moment that we all remember, of course, too, and that's Huggins consoling Deshaun on the floor in that Final Four after his ACL injury, and how much that impacted him, because it showed how much Huggins loved his players, and he said that inspired him to always have that same love and compassion for all of his players, and that's something he really tries to focus on. Yeah, he may be tough on you. Yeah, he wants to get the best out of you. He wants you to have, what we call the hard edge mentality on the football side. He wants that on the basketball side. But he said you don't have to sacrifice having love and compassion for all your players, and he loves all of his guys. And referenced that moment between Huggs and Deshaun Butler as being something that kind of inspired that and helped him to always remember that and take note of that. Stated that he doesn't think there's a better AD in the country than Ren Baker, which Gordon Geese echoed similar statements towards the beginning of the press conference. And I think, I've talked a lot in the past here about Ren Baker being a legend. I think he just continues to build that legacy, especially if, we end up having a winning season, with Coach Hodge, with Coach Rich Rodriguez, two of his hires. I think that, Ren Baker's done a phenomenal job with everything he's had to navigate. A lot of tumultuous times here at WVU since he came to Morgantown, and he's done a great job kind of functioning through all of that and still, shining as a really successful athletic director and making some really smart decisions. He also said he already recognizes how passionate West Virginia fans are, and that he loves it, embraces it, and welcomes it because he wants to be at a place where it matters, to the fans that much, where they're going to live and die with each win or loss. And, he loves the mentality of the West Virginia fan base already. And then he talked a little bit about how West Virginia, according to KenPom, has the number one home court advantage in the entire nation. And one thing that I noted there when he talked about it is when he references West Virginia, he says we already. He's already, making it a point to say we when he talks about West Virginia already, trying to integrate himself into the culture, into, the Mountaineer athletics program, especially the basketball side, obviously. But I love that he kept saying we when he talked about WVU sports. That's awesome already. Just a nice touch, from Ross Hodge. A lot of things that you can really write home about from this press conference. That was one that stuck out to me. And then this also did. He said, if you're going to win the Big 12, you have to have a great defense. He talked about, Kansas. When they were dominating the conference, they were doing it with defense. And he said, you look now, who's winning the conference? It's Houston. They're playing in the Final Four. What do they have? The number one scoring defense in all of college basketball over the past 5 years. But funny enough, over that same time span, Houston has the number one scoring defense in college basketball. You know who the number two scoring defense was during that same time frame? North Texas. Ross Hodge's team was the number two scoring defense, so he's certainly bringing that mentality to West Virginia, and I think, the proof is in the pudding there, as he talked about. In the Big 12, the teams that have really good defenses are the teams that win the conference. It was Kansas for a while. It's been Houston since then, and he's trying to implement a really strong defense here at WVU and trying to get us to compete for those conference titles with a great defense like that, and certainly the numbers at North Texas bear it out that he knows how to coach defense for sure. He says he will have had. He says he will work hard every day to make everyone proud to be a West Virginia Mountaineer, and that was kind of one of the final statements that he made and kind of his opening parts before he started taking questions. And I do have some notes from some of the questions that he fielded. One of those coming from Hoppy Kirchville, which I thought it was funny that, Ren Baker said, hey, they don't call him hard-hitting Hoppy for nothing, because Hoppy immediately, one of the first questions out of the gate asked him about, the previous coach not really planting roots down here, leaving after a year. What can we expect from you to know that you're going to plant roots down here and not do the same thing? I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but that's kind of the way that the question, that's kind of what the question was asking. And he answered it by saying it was a very hard move for him to make, and he would not have left for just anywhere. He said he's turned down plenty of, bigger job opportunities, bigger money, at bigger brands, because that's not what he's worried about. He's not worried about being at the biggest brand. He's not worried about getting the most money. For him, what he's concerned about is people and finding a place that he can call home and make his home. And he feels like WVU is that place, because it was not easy for him to leave North Texas, and he wouldn't have left it for just anywhere. So hopefully that goes a little bit of a ways in alleviating our concerns that we're not here doing this again a year later, and he's not going to be, the same as Darren DeSlees and leave after a year. I think that Ross Hodge seems like really, first and foremost, a stand-up guy, a high-character guy, which, Darren DeVries, as good of a basketball coach as he is, I don't think that we would categorize him as either of those things, kind of the polar opposite. So I do feel more confident that Ross Hodge will be here for an extended period of time, and his answers definitely sold that as well. He was asked about where he could recruit. He said he feels like he can recruit nationally, all over the country. He was at junior college, where they kind of had to do that. In North Texas, they did that. He said, they've gotten players from California, Texas, Florida, even Africa, so, not even nationally, but internationally as well, it sounds like. So, he's not going to limit himself as far as a recruiting base. He's going to go to where the talent is and where he needs to go to find the players that he feels like can fit his system and fit the mentality that he wants to instill here at WVU. Also said he feels confident that with the staff and the roster that they will put together, he can get WVU back into the NCAA tournament, which I thought it was a great question asked there by Mike Asti, asking about maybe some of the detractors that are kind of wondering, because he hadn't made an NCAA tournament yet in his 2 years at North Texas. What would he say to them? And he talked about, building the staff and building a roster that could get WVU back in the NCAA tournament, but also talked about having extensive experience as an assistant under multiple coaches that have made the NCAA tournament, being on teams that have played in the NCAA tournament, that have won NCAA tournament games, and how all of that has kind of molded him into the coach that he is going to be, and I feel confident that he will get WVU back into the tournament. Will it be in year one? We'll have to wait and see. That remains to be seen, depending on kind of the roster that we form and how the coaching staff comes together. I think all of those will go a long way in determining that, but I do think it will be in short order, and I think he can turn this thing around pretty quickly. I mean, I know we won 19 games, but I think that he can have a successful first year as well. One thing that he's had to do both at the junior college level and at North Texas is roster rebuilds. He has experience with that. He's got to do it again here at WVU, so it's good to have a coach that has experience doing those things and has had success despite having to do that. He also said that one of the best road winning percentage in the nation the past 8 years was North Texas. If you look over the past 8 years, he mentioned, of course, the scoring defense, but in addition to that, it's been either North Texas or Houston that's had the best road winning percentage, which that's very welcomed here at WVU. Outside of this year, the past couple of years prior to that, we really struggled to win on the road. The Big 12 is a conference that's tough to win road games in, and if you can win road games, you can play good defense, I think you have a recipe for success. And when you look at the track record of North Texas under Ross Hodge, they were dominant on the defensive end, and they had a really good road winning percentage. So hopefully those things translate to WVU, because I think if you can do both those things, you can definitely be successful. I talked about the dead period of recruiting starting today and lasting through, next Friday. So we got another target to talk about here towards the tail end of this stream. But then we won't be talking about, WVU reaching out to any other targets for another week or so. However, I think that across this week, we will start to see some commits roll in. Guys are in the portal. As soon as they hit the portal, which, the portal's been open for about a week or so now, schools have contacted them. They've had Zoom meetings with them. They've, had visits in some cases. So the recruiting aspect is kind of done. And just because it's a dead period, that basically just means that you can't reach out, you can't make calls and stuff. But guys that are in the portal can choose to commit to places, announce their commitments during this dead period before it picks back up in another week. And we've talked about, I think, 20-some guys West Virginia's made contact with. We've talked about a couple that they're down, on their final list. So I think here in short order, we'll start to see some of these transfer commits roll in over this week, despite it being the dead period. He said he knows people have questions about his offense, and I thought that this was something really important to highlight here as a takeaway from his press conference, because as great as his defense has been, detractors have said, what about the offense? Is he going to be able to be successful on offense? Because if you can't score, you can't win, right? And, one thing that I've talked about with that is you could look at Grant McCaslin, who also came from North Texas. When he got to Texas Tech, his offensive numbers went up, and a part of that is having more resources to be able to go out and get better offensive players that can score the basketball a little bit more, and that helps in that aspect. But he also said, because of the pace they play, some people really look at their numbers and how much they average scoring-wise and think they don't play good offense. But he was quick to highlight that according to Kim Palm, over the past couple of years, that he's been there as the head coach, they've had either the number 2 or number 3 offense in their entire conference, which has, I think, at least 14 teams in that conference. And also, they've had one of the highest three-point percentages in the nation. So, they play a slower pace because they like to slow the game down. They like to get teams into rock fights and kind of dominate on the defensive end and on the glass, rebounding. That's just a style that they play. But to go along with that, they are extremely efficient on the offensive end, especially from the three-point line, which I think could also really help here at WVU. And then he said he will bring some of the North Texas coaches with him to join him at WVU when he was asked about, staff, when that's going to happen. And I think we talked about that in the couple previous streams. Some that I think he's referencing is probably Phil Forte, maybe Johnny Estelle. We'll see if any others come. But I think that those two may follow him from North Texas. And I'm excited about Phil Forte and hoping that he is one of those that he's talking about following him from North Texas. And then the last note I have here was something he said towards the tail end. And it's really, I think, a strong statement about kind of the way that he runs his program. He said they've always had an internal saying among their staff and their players, kind of a motto, that they will respect everyone, but they will fear no one. So they're going to respect all their opponents. They know they're going to face a lot of good teams, but they're not going to be scared of anyone. They're willing to take all comers and give it their best shot, no matter who the opponent is. So respect everyone and fear no one. I like that mantra there that he shared, and a ton of good takeaways there from his press conference, I thought, today, and definitely wanted to highlight some of those here on the front end of the show. And now here in the back half, we will talk about this transfer portal news, and then we will wrap up this stream because I'll be coming at you here in just a little bit later to talk some football, as we'll have some things to talk about on that side as well. But definitely was impressed by Coach Hodge's press conference. You guys know I was already sold on him, but this just made me feel more secure that this was a great hire, that he is going to be successful at WVU. And I think everything that everyone has said, the coaches have said, not only about his basketball acumen, but even more so the things they said about his character, about him as a person. All of those really came to light with the things that he highlighted and spoke about in his press conference. Even outside of basketball, those really stuck out, and I think he's going to fit in absolutely great here at WVU. I think he's going to be an excellent fit for Mountaineer Nation, and super excited about Coach Hodge, who, in my opinion, won that press conference in a major way, and his stock is on the rise for sure among Mountaineer Nation. I think the naysayers may even be buying in now, and of course, it's easy to do that when he's undefeated right now, right? But definitely once the season rolls around, I think the wins will come also. So not only did he win the press conference, but I think he's going to do a great job putting a staff together, putting a roster together, and that's what we'll continue to cover now that he's officially on board. He's officially in Morgantown. Those are kind of the next steps, and we'll keep you guys up to date on that staff as it forms and the roster as he continues to build it. And we have some news to talk about in that regard here with transfer portal updates. But let me take a swig of my coffee. I'll catch up on some of your all's comments here that are in here in the live chat, and then we will talk about these transfer portal updates here to wrap up the stream. Hey, Golden Blue Goggles. Always love that Scream name, man. We throw on the golden blue glasses here to keep it optimistic on the CRW. And Boss Hodge is in the house. He says, hey, that's right. I love all the nicknames going around, man. There's so many fun nicknames you can make with Coach Hodge's name, and Boss Hodge is a good one as well. I like that, Golden Blue Goggles. Appreciate you, man. Channel member Trey Edwards says he knows the culture, and so does his family. Eat shit pit. Hey, that's right. I love that tidbit when they were talking about the West Virginia version of Sweet Caroline there that he brought early in the press conference. I think, like I said, delivered some laughs early before he got into some more serious stuff throughout the press conference. So really, it was a great job by him doing all of that, making you laugh, maybe making you shed a tear or so once he got choked up, right? And then really had some really positive things to say about the state, about the West Virginia brand, the culture here, the basketball program. I mean, knocked it out of the park, in my opinion, for sure. Trey Edwards says he sounds like a great hire, but personality is only a sliver of what matters in this. You may be a great guy, but can you win? We will find out, but I back him 100% until he gives me a reason not to. Well said, Trey. Well said. At the end of the day, that's what's going to matter, right? Is if he can win basketball games. I think that he can and that he will, but that part remains to be seen. But for now, at least he's done a good job selling himself to Mountaineer Nation and really ingratiating himself into this culture in a big way, I think, with a lot of the things that he talked about in his press conference. And now we're waiting to see what staff and roster he builds and if the wins can come once the season rolls around, which hopefully they do. But building that roster is going to be a big part of that. So let's talk about that now. We'll talk about a transfer target that would be a big get for West Virginia. But before we do that, let's talk about a transfer portal player that has departed and has announced his destination. And that is none other than former West Virginia guard KJ Tenner, who put out on social media yesterday that he has committed to Murray State. So another former Mountaineer that we now know his destination. So let's pull up our transfer portal tracker here and kind of highlight that a little bit. As we now know the destinations of 3 of the 5 players that have entered the portal. Of course, we knew DeVries was heading to Indiana. Jonathan Powell had committed to UNC. I believe we referenced that in the last stream. And now KJ Tenner to Murray State as well. Hansberry currently uncommitted, and Sincere Harris currently uncommitted as well. Fingers crossed we could maybe get some news, that maybe one of those guys would return to the Mountaineers and play for Coach Hodge. We'll see how it plays out, though, but that's where we stand currently. And like I said, here in the near future, I'm expecting us to be able to add names to this transfer in list, and I can't wait to do so. And one of those names that I would love to be able to add to that transfer in list is none other than this young man, and West Virginia has a great shot at him. as they have made his final list of schools. West Virginia, has a 25% chance to land him, right? He's down to 4 schools, so, 1 in 4 chance there, 25% that West Virginia could get Jakari White. Down to 5 schools. I guess if I could count right, then it would be 1 out of 5, and 20% chance instead of 25%. Hey, I can't count to 5. What can I say? But the schools that he's down to are Houston, Virginia Tech, Texas, Ole Miss, and, of course, WVU. And this would be an awesome pickup to start things for West Virginia. As Coach Hodge referenced today, guard play is very important, of course, in his system and, of course, in college basketball in general. And Jakari White, a very talented guard that played for North Dakota State this past season. Originally from Florida, 6'3", so good length for a guard as well. He averaged 17 points per game, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists, shooting 45% from the floor. And you look at some of his other numbers as well. Shot nearly 40% from the three-point line and shot nearly 46% from the three-point line the year prior. So this guy can really shoot the basketball. Obviously, can score it, but sometimes you see these guys that are scorers but not necessarily good shooters. He can do a bit of both. Probably can create his own shot, I'm guessing, and can spot up if need be there with the 40% three-point percentage. Would love to have someone come join the Mountaineers with those type of numbers. 85% from the free throw line as well, something that he's improved each year of his college career is his free throw percentage. Also has improved his rebounding numbers all the way up to 4 per game, which is very good for a guard, and a couple assists per game as well. I'm sure he was a ball-dominant player there at North Dakota State. But definitely would love to get a scoring guard like Jakari White who can shoot the basketball and go out and get you some points. We need to start adding players to this roster, and he would be a great building block. And West Virginia has, like I said, 20% chance to land him in his final 5. So we'll see what happens with Jakari White in the near future, and hopefully we can add him to the transfer in list. Would love to be able to do that. I think we'll be adding names to that transfer in list here in short order. We've talked about, now over the past few streams, I think 20-plus guys West Virginia has targeted. We have, multiple guys that West Virginia is in their final list of options. So, like I said, those names are going to start rolling in soon. The staff's going to start building soon. So be sure, if you're not yet, if you're on Facebook or Twitch watching this, be sure to come over to the Country Roads webcast channel, subscribe here so you can stay up to date as that staff forms and as that roster builds. We're covering a ton of different things here on the Country Roads webcast for sure. So that's pretty much all I had, guys. But how about we share the nice video from last night? We talked about Coach Hodge, talking about the people of West Virginia and how we already got a chance to experience some of them at the baseball game. And the WVU Sports account, the WVU Media team that always does a great job, put out a video kind of showcasing that. So let's show that here a little bit, about 2 minutes long or so. And then if you guys got any questions or comments, throw them in the live chat there. I'll touch up on those one more time, but I'll share this video. And then we will call it a stream after an impressive press conference from Coach Hodge and another portal update there. And like I said, I'll be back later today to talk some football as well. But let's highlight this awesome video here as Coach Hodge met a lot of the people at West Virginia, a lot of the West Virginians, a lot of Mountaineer Nation at last night's baseball victory over the Pitt Panthers.
Hey, what's up, guys? Appreciate it. See if I can get one picture. Yeah, let's do it, man. I like that jersey, man. Cold Rush. Got the iPhone 8. Can't wait to see y'all. Let's do it, man. Let's for sure, man.
We know you're like.
It's all good, dude. Appreciate y'all, man.
Coming to Morgantown.
Thank you. Can't wait. Can't wait, man. Just hit a bomb. Shaggy dog.
Take a picture with me.
Thank y'all, man. Yeah, he's a good player, man. For sweet Caroline, man. Y'all, man. Thanks for saying what's up. Yeah.
How's it going? You like Morgantown so far?
Love it, dude.
Awesome.
Love it, man.
We're happy to have you.
Super happy to be here.
Morgantown?
Thank you, man. I'm Ross.
Well, you don't have to, we know your name. Welcome. Seriously.
Let's do it, man.
Hey, let's go Pitt. Come on.
Oh.
How you doing? Thank you, man. Ross Hodge. Nice to meet you as well. What's up, dude? What's your name? Hey, how are you? Thank you.
Good. Congratulations.
Your daughter was really excited for Sweet Caroline.
Yeah, she couldn't wait.
too. This is Coach Maisie. This is our baseball coach that just
What's
retired.
up, man? We were just talking about you, man. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Welcome.
Man, you guys have done a heck of a job here, man.
See what he's got too. He's got to get some players.
What's up, y'all? Thank you, man. Oh, man, thank you. Thank y'all. How you doing, man? Ross, what's up, man? How you doing? Come on. Glad to be here. Hadn't lost the game yet. Everybody loves me, man. Play baseball too? What position you play? What's up, y'all? How y'all doing? Yeah, and I said I'm going to keep you mic'd up for about 5 more minutes. So y'all can't say nothing crazy for 5 more minutes. Then we take this off. We can start talking crazy. We're glad to be here. Thank you.
Glad to have you.
Thank you. Glad to be here. No, we were out there. Ross. Zach, nice to meet you. When Kansas was winning the Big 12, they had the best defense in the league. Houston's been winning the Big 12 the last couple of years because they got the best defense in the league. It's going to carry over. Defense travels. Hodge.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Awesome stuff there, man. I'm sure you guys saw me smiling. I've watched that a couple times, but it still gets me, man. He's just got a great personality. He'll make you laugh, make you smile with some of the comments there for sure. And I love the one, everybody loves me. I haven't lost a game yet. And I think that is definitely the case right now. We're all kind of riding the good vibes of the press conference of having a new sheriff in town that's definitely a better character guy than the last person for sure, and I think he's going to stick around for a while, but hopefully he's going to bring a lot of wins as well. I'm super impressed by him. I was impressed by him before, but now even more so, and hopefully some of you guys all are as well. I appreciate you guys for tuning into this one. Those of you that watched on Facebook or Twitch, like I said, encourage you, come over to the YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe here. We've put out 2 pre-recorded videos and a podcast episode in the past 24 hours. I'll be back later to do another stream. That's the plan anyways, as long as everything goes according to plan. But if you guys didn't get a chance to share any thoughts here in the live chat, share them in the comments. Always appreciate those interactions as we continue to try and grow the CRW community throughout Mountaineer Nation. Do see a couple more comments rolling in here. Drumwolf62 says Hodge ball. Hey, that's right, Hodge edge on the basketball side. He's definitely got that same type of mentality, that gritty aspect to things that he's going to try and instill with the awesome defense that he employs. And can't wait to see it, man. Can't wait to see that Hodge ball, Drumwolf. Appreciate you as always. Shaq says like, share, and subscribe as normal. I'm like, hey, as long as you're here, Shaq, that's all good, man. You can always rewind and go back and rewatch on the playback and appreciate that. But yeah, definitely, as Shaq says, if you guys would be kind enough, it doesn't cost you anything to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Share it out with other members of Mountaineer Nation. It really helps us out a ton here on the channel. Always appreciate you being a channel member here, Shaq, as well. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. I'm sure I'll talk to you again later today. Like I said, if everything goes according to plan, I'll be back for another stream here in a bit. But in the meantime and in between time, check out some of the content we've uploaded on the YouTube channel. Spring Showcase Primer, let you know some of the jersey numbers, the newcomers, so you'll know who you're watching out there on Saturday as the Mountaineers take the field for the first time in the Rich Rod 2.0 era. Me and Steven recorded about an hour-long podcast episode talking basketball, talking football, talking a little baseball, and of course even getting off the rails and talking about some random stuff as we do occasionally on the podcast episodes. And then this morning I also uploaded a recruiting update as West Virginia landed a really impressive running back for the 2026 class on the football side. So hey, check those out in the meantime, in between time, and by the time you watch all those, I'll probably be back doing another stream later today, and I'll get a chance to chat with you guys some more, and we'll talk a little football, and we talked basketball on this one. Of course, just to recap, gave some awesome takeaways from Coach Hodge, who I think won the press conference. Jakari White, a transfer card from North Dakota State, very talented scorer and shooter, has West Virginia as one of his final 5. That's just kind of what we discussed here throughout the stream. If you didn't get a chance, go back and watch. Do just that if you would, please. And before you head out, hit that thumbs up button. Help us with that YouTube algorithm. Appreciate you guys, as always. Until next time, let's go Mountaineers.